Welcome to a fun Friday. That's what we've got for you lined up for the next 60 minutes. It is a thrill and a delight to be with you. And we're going to be telling some dad jokes and checking out a whole lot of other things coming up here as we move through the program. And want to let you know that you can be a part of it. We are live streaming everywhere, so you can chat us up, or you can hit us with an email, steve@salemmedia.com. I got to tell you, I figured out that there's an old saying that's true. You know, some of these old sayings are like old wives' tales. They sound legitimate, but they're really not. You know what I'm talking about? Well, I found out today firsthand, no doubt in my mind, that this one's true. When you always hear that wearing black like attracts heat, attracts the sun. Listen, it's about a bazillion degrees outside. And if you're watching the live stream, I've got my black shirt on, and walking out just from the building to the parking lot and into my vehicle, I could literally feel the sun just pulling towards me. I could feel just the heat rising from this shirt. It was unbelievable. I've learned a lesson. I'm never going to wear black in the middle of summertime again. That's for sure. Or at least if I do, I'm not going to go outside. I'm just going to stay inside where it's nice and cool, which I suggest you do anyway. But we've got, like I say, a ton to do today. We've got Adam Holtz from pluggedin.com is going to be joining us. We're going to talk all things entertainment with him. The biggest thing to hit movies in a long time is the Spider-Man movie. Is it family friendly? Is it something that's worth paying, almost an arm and a leg to take you and your family to go see in the theaters? We'll find out from Adam coming up. But I wanted to start today with something that we kind of talked about a little bit yesterday. I had somebody ask me about the atheist question that we had. It was actually a comment from one of our previous live streams. And that's one of the things about being on live stream that people watch on their own time. It's not like the classic days of radio where, you listen or you missed it. Obviously people can go back and listen to things from months ago, sometimes years ago, if they want to, and comment on it. And the person made a comment that, they didn't believe that there was a God, which is fine, whatever. And then to say something along the lines of that this so-called mystical fantasy being would never reveal himself to creation. And my friend was talking about, said, you just handled that so well, because I would have just jumped right in the middle of it and really probably been a lot angrier than you were. Now, I'm not saying that to brag on me, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but listen, that's how we have to answer these questions by these non-believers. Because as people that are following Christ, as people who are trying to live every single day to be more like Jesus, which I hope you are, that's what I'm trying to do, then we have to be able to see them not as they are, but as what they could be. Does that make sense? We have to look at them as not someone who is trying to be adversarial to us and just trying to pick a fight and trying to be obnoxious. But we have to see them for the person that is just totally missing it. They're completely blinded, whether it's a willful blindness or if it's just because they have never stopped to consider it and have just always assumed that they are the captain of their own ship and they are the most important person in the universe. So it's difficult, but how we react to those questions and those people will say a lot about our, number one, relationship with God, but also how seriously we're taken by others. Because obviously, if we kind of get down on their level, and again, that sounds all high and mighty, but I just mean if we react the same way that they do, with anger or with sarcasm or with cutting words, then maybe we're not doing the best thing. Maybe we're not helping the cause as much as we would like to. Because here's the thing, our speech is so important. If we act and sound just like everyone else, even if we're saying the right things, but we're conducting ourselves not in a Christ-like way, it could do more damage. It could drive people further away. Now, and again, it's not compromising the truth. It's not saying that we want to try to find common ground with everybody because, quite honestly, we can't find common ground with every single person. Although I think, in my personal belief, that should be the first thing we try to do. And maybe it's not possible, but being able to tell the truth and do it in a way that is gentle and respectful of that person that disagrees with you is the way that it's outlined in scripture to do. You know, the Bible talks about presenting the hope that we have, but also doing it with gentleness and kindness because they're not going to expect it. They're going to want someone to verbally spar it out with and really start being, you know, kind of name calling and different things and mudslinging, that kind of deal. Or they're going to be the opposite, where they're genuinely curious and they ask these questions. And then all of a sudden, we're coming back with, you know, boom, 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 hard words, even though they may be correct words, can really leave people feeling intimidated, stupid, or just completely turned off because, hey, if that's what this following Jesus is all about, if this is the kind of people that these God people are, man, I don't want anything to do with it. So we just have to be careful. We have to walk that tightrope because it is so important in order to make sure that we are presenting ourselves as much like Jesus as possible. And I know some of you are going to say, well, Jesus turned over the temple's treasury and he drove out things. Absolutely. He did those things and he had a righteous anger. And there are things we can be angry about. But the things that we are allowed to be angry about are not other people, but sin. That's what Jesus was angry about. That's what really fired him up. And it ought to fire us up too, but not to take it out on the person, but be angry at the sin. It's a big difference there. Anyway, we've got, like I say, a big show planned for you. If those of you that are watching on our YouTube stream, as we stream it, not only just on YouTube, but all over the place, we're going to show you some behind the scenes stuff while radio goes to commercial, and we'll be showing you some cool things and getting you involved in a lot of different ways. So we want you to check that out as we stream all over the place. And of course, like I say, we're on two amazing radio stations. That's the heartbeat of this program. That's where it all started, at AM 630, The Word in San Antonio, and Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock. So we want you to hang out with us, stay the whole hour. You're going to be encouraged. You're going to be blessed. And we're going to have a lot of fun on the way. Coming up, we're going to do what we do every Friday, and that is review the Babylon Bee, the newspaper, magazine, periodical, website of record for the Steve Marston Show. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. So, yeah. Okay. Coming back on the radio. The Steve Marston Show rolling on here. Thank you for joining us. It's always a thrill. And our ministry of the month, as you can see on our live stream video, is Dr. Michael Youssef and Leading the Way. He and Chris Tomlin are going to be together for an amazing night. We're a little more than a month away from it. It's called Awake Houston at the Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, Texas. And I know you may not be in the state of Texas, but I'm telling you, there are people coming from literally all over the country. There's people that are planning on coming from international realms too, to be a part of this night of worship. And it's going to hopefully continue the flames of revival that we're seeing, pick up from here and there throughout our country. That's what the whole purpose is. It's not a night for anything else but to come and to kind of repent and to seek God's face and ask God to change our hearts and our minds, change our direction of our country. And that's why it's called Awake Houston. And again, tickets are on sale. You can see the QR code right there on the live stream. If not, and you're listening on the radio, go to am630theword.com and you'll see a link there. Same thing for faithtalk995.com. We'll show you a link there where you can get your tickets. So wherever you're going to be planning on joining us from, we want you to do so at Sugarland's Smart Financial Center, September 19th. And speaking of Michael Youssef and Leading the Way, here is the Ministry of the Month resource. It's called Winning the Invisible War. It's your biblical guide to spiritual victory. We talk about that a lot here on this program, how we can live that abundant life. Well, here's a good guide for you. This is how to apply God's word to your everyday battles. Utilize the full armor of God that's talked about in Ephesians, and rest in the already and yet to come victory of Christ over Satan. Your biblical guide to spiritual victory, Winning the Invisible War, is available for you. If you want to call in, you can do so, or you can send me an email. Yep, send me an email. I'll send you one of these. Steve@salemmedia.com. Okay, let's get to our review of the Babylon Bee. This is our weekly check-in with the nation's, and I dare say the world's, best satirical website. But along with all kinds of comedy comes a lot of truth. Am I right? So you may have heard, and I'm sure you did, it became a big viral video here not long ago where someone came to a Turning Point USA rally. I think it was a college student, and said, Americans are tired of having to pay for $20 burritos. Now, obviously, that was either one, just an extreme exaggeration, or two, they actually believe that. And if you're a college kid, I mean, you live at Taco Bell, right? Precisely because they don't charge very much money. But the Babylon Bee never wanted to take a back seat to a viral video. So here's what they came up with: 7 hacks to obtain a burrito for less than $20. So you ready for these? Here we go. Number 7, move to Mexico. Yeah, they probably go on trees down there. I don't know. Maybe. Number 6 is help usher in communism. This is a surefire way to make everything abundant and affordable for everyone. I mean, right? Right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Number 5 on the list of 7 hacks to get a burrito for less than $20, according to our friends at the Babylon Bee, is get a job at Chipotle and make yourself a burrito when no one is watching. Yeah, you'll be swimming in burritos every day. You can't argue with that logic. There's no doubt about that. Let's see where we at. Number 4, Go to almost any place that sells burritos for less than $20. Seriously, no kidding. They're all over the place. You can find them practically every corner, especially in Texas. Up to number 3 now. This is the 7 hacks to get a burrito for less than $20 from the Babylon Bee. Find yourself a conservative influencer whose wife makes cheap burritos and invite yourself over to dinner. Trust us, they're never going to be there. Yeah. Number 2, score 1 for 30% less at Mondami's city-run grocery store. Socialist utopia is finally paying off. And of course, Mondami is the communist mayor of New York City that's opened all these grocery stores run by the city, because the city does such a great job of running, everything else, right? And the number 1 hack to get a burrito for less than $20, according to the Babylon Bee. Are you ready? Steal one. This one just goes without saying. Reach up there and take it. Easy peasy. There you go. Got to know the right tricks to get out of having to pay $20 for a burrito. It's a piece of cake. So there you go. That's the Babylon Bee. When we return, we are going to be joined by Adam Holtz, and we're going to be talking about the biggest movie that's hit theaters, it seems like, in quite a long time, and that is Spider-Man. I know people that have already paid to see it more than once. I don't know if you and your family have gone out yet or not to check it out, but I know it's on the list of a lot of people. My 12-year-old has been kind of chipping at me too, chirping, "Hey, Dad, when are we going? When are we going?" Well, we're going to find out from Adam whether it's going to be worth the time and, more importantly, worth the money to go see Spider-Man. And then there's other stuff out there too. We'll talk all things entertainment with him coming up. We've got our dad joke of the day on the way as well, plus the best video on the internet today. And it's all coming up for you as we continue to roll on this fun Friday, where we like to turn the fun up to 11. And if you know that reference, you and I are going to be really good friends, and you're going to really dig the show if you like that reference. Okay, stay with us. We are coming right back. It's the Steve Marston Show on a fun Friday on AM 630, The Word, deep in the heart of Texas, Faith Talk 99.5 in Central Arkansas, and worldwide on the internet. Okay, the radio back into break here, and I'll let you know that you can get one of these books right here from Michael Youssef called Winning the Invisible War if you want to, whether you're watching live or you're watching this on a delay. If we still got it, I'll send one to you. So send me an email, steve@salemmedia.com, steve@salemmedia.com, and we'll hook you up with that book here from the Steve Marston Show. Let me tell you about our website too. We're still in beta mode with the stevemarston.com site, and we'd love for you to check it out. Again, maybe you've already done so and you've kind of kicked the tires a little bit and you thought, well, whatever. Well, we have still continually been designing it over the last week or so. So it may not look exactly the way it did the last time you were there, especially even if it's only been a few days. So check it out, stevemarstonShow.com, and we would appreciate you doing that. Coming up next week, we've got some big guests coming up for you next week. We're going to be hitting markets specific on both Monday and Tuesday. San Antonio is going to get a special conversation with Steve Teal, who is a host of a podcast and is also on the radio station on the weekends there with Live Boldly. And Casey Longing, who's a good friend of mine, is going to be for the Little Rock audience on Monday. Tuesday, we'll have the same thing when Pastor Taryn Phillips from Refuge Church in San Antonio joins us. And then Christine Faith is going to join us from Central Arkansas. So we'll have a fun time of splitting those up. And here's what's cool, that you can still get both interviews, both conversations with a subscription to the podcast. So we're not able to, technological wise, to be able to put both on video. I wish we could, but there's just really no way. We have to choose one or the other, right? So we will have video on the YouTube channel. The other one will be all audio, and you can listen to both conversations. So it should be fun next week as we continue to try to grow the show and have more guests on from literally all over the country. All right, we've got about 10 seconds coming back from the radio break. We're back on the Steve Marston Show. Thank you for letting us keep you company. And it's time to welcome in our good friend, Adam Holtz. He is, he's the best. He's our guy from pluggedin.com. And he is not only a contributor to that website, but the guy loves movies and he loves entertainment, and he does a great job of breaking them down. And he's always our special guest on Friday. So, hey, it's been a couple of weeks. I see you're back with your Hawaiian shirt. You've got family vacation all tanned and ready to go, right?
I mean, last week at this time, I was soaring 800 feet above Lake Tahoe parasailing.
Wow.
So my
now, was that your first time to ever do that?
It was. My oldest daughter drugged me in kicking and screaming, and it was amazing. I can't wait to do it again. It was not scary. It was not scary at all. So
well, you know, I always thought that. Now, I've never done it. I'll just be honest. I've never gone parasailing, but to me, it seems like it can't be that dangerous feeling because you are really hooked in there. It seems like. And so, yeah, you get up really pretty high, but I think it would be pretty good. It sounds fun to me.
It was terrific. If you ever get a chance, do it.
Absolutely. I'm going to. I'm good at. That's a bucket list thing for me. I'm going to.
That's not why people are tuning in today.
No, it's not. It's not, but they are tuning in to hear about Spider-Man because it seems like that has been the biggest thing to hit movies in quite a long time. I know people that have paid more than twice. There's a college student I know that have gone with different friend groups. 3 times he's paid to see Spider-Man. I guess, is it that good?
You know, I think it's really good from a Spider-Man / superhero fan perspective. If I take that hat off and put my plugged in hat on, there are a couple bumps in the road that I don't think are quite deal killers, but a couple things that might make you, especially if you're a parent of a younger child, raise your eyebrow just a little bit. And again, we're not in full face palm, cover their eyes territory. But it's like, why did they have to do that? So the story picks up where Spider-Man, No Way Home, I can never remember the name of it, left off back in 2021. And if you remember, things that happened, and Spider-Man sort of inadvertently triggered all sorts of bad things. And so he asked Doctor Strange to cast this spell to fix things, but it will mean that everybody he has ever known will forget him. And so it ends on this tragic note with his best friend forgetting him, and, you know, MJ, his girlfriend, forgetting him, and everybody else forgetting him too. Which, you know, when you think about sort of existential nuclear bombs, imagine if suddenly nobody knew who you were. It's pretty huge, right?
Yeah.
So we find Peter Parker navigating that reality, really longing to try to reconnect with MJ and figure out a way to say, hey, we had this thing before, but she has a new boyfriend. Ned Leeds, his best friend, seems to be doing just fine. Luckily or unluckily, a new menace shows up who has the ability to sort of take control of people's bodies. So it's you could think of it like possession, but it's not really spiritual in that sense. And so Spider-Man's trying to figure out who this enemy is and what their motivation is, and the stakes get higher when said entity ends up in somebody like, say, the Hulk. Right now, we have problems. It's not, he's not taking over the bus driver, although that might be bad too. And so that's sort of the core of the plot setup. But really, this is a movie about relationship. And I think one that, on the positive side of things, it gives us a lot to think about the importance of our relationships with friends, with family. And it reminds us why we so desperately need people who know us and love us, because we see what happens with Peter Parker when that is not in play. Now, tons of comic book action. There's a guy named Frank Castle who shows up. And if you know, you know, his superhero name is the Punisher. He's got a big skull on his chest and he carries a gun, and he's sort of a vengeful enforcer of justice, which creates its own set of issues. So plenty of violence here, nothing that's, crazily surprising. But the content things that I think people want to know about, there are a number of really harsh uses of God's name. And I think you know what I'm talking about when I say that. And that I can actually deal with quite a lot. I almost rather have other profanities than that one. Because I think as a follower of Jesus, that's one that really, it's like, oh man, can we pick a different word? And there's like 6 or 7 of them. It's not just once, it's a number of times. So that's the first thing. And they, throughout the Spider-Man movies, we've sort of gone back and forth between how Peter produces his web fluid. And in the comics and in the recent movies, it has been, something he creates and fills up his little web shooters. He's going through sort of a late adolescence and now generating his own web fluid. And there's no way to say that without it sounding just as gross as the movie intends it to be. So there are several things that play on sort of adolescence and that sort of business, right? And younger kids probably are not going to get the joke. Parents and anybody who's gone through adolescence will get the joke, right? And so it's like, oh, I don't know. Did you have to go there? Right. But it's all played in its own semi kind of goofy way. And, I think that Tom Holland is he's just annoyingly likable. Like, even if you want to dislike the guy, it's pretty difficult. And everybody seems to love Zendaya because she's in every movie that's released these days. And so I think that has certainly contributed to the huge box office we've seen. But I also think Spider-Man as a superhero has something that almost nobody else has, and that's this sense of approachability. Peter Parker is an everyman kind of character, or every teen kind of character that we can relate to. And the struggles he's dealing with are down-to-earth struggles. They're not cosmic struggles so much. And I actually think the superhero thing works better with conflicts that are a little bit more down to earth. I felt that way about No Way Home too, that it just worked really well. So I think fans will enjoy it. I think it's a really well-crafted movie. I saw a video today that Marvel is sort of taking notes on what Sony is doing, since Marvel hasn't had a hit like this on their side of things really since Endgame. So there you go. That is the full skinny on Spider-Man Brand New Day. Any thoughts, questions, rebuttal that we need to deal with?
No, I think it's incredible that it's having the success that it is, because in this day and age, with movies being so expensive, but and going to, not just theater and buying a ticket, but I was talking to a friend that bought a large Coke and a large popcorn. And it was somewhere in the neighborhood
like
of
30
like
bucks.
25, yeah, 25,
Yeah.
$30. And he goes, no, I just want one. And Coke, one popcorn. And they were like, well, it's going to be almost $30, sir.
Right.
And he just about, his teeth just about fell out of his head.
Well, like if you're a
And so,
couple and you have kids, if
exactly.
you get a sitter and go out to eat and go to a movie and have a snack, it could cost you $150.
That's
It
right.
didn't used to cost that much.
And now to see that the quality of the content of the movie, people are willing to pay that price and come out and see it. That is good news that Hollywood is finally stumbled on something again that has really grabbed hold of the nation's attention.
Yeah.
So I guess that's good. Adam Holtz is our guest here on the Steve Marston Show. He's with pluggedin.com. It's a ministry of focus on the family. And I know they say this all the time, but I really mean it. Go check it out, bookmark it, because it's updated all the time. Everything from entertainment you can think of, from movies to books to video games to streaming shows, they're all broken down. And it really is, in the best way possible, information overload. It's so good. You need to check it out. But Spider-Man is not the only thing at the box office that's having some success. Apparently, there's some new animated series that are out. There's one for Batman. There's one from Star Wars. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, let's just do Batman. And these are things that are streaming on TV. Batman Caped Crusader just launched its second season on Amazon's Prime Video. This is a TV MA show. So it's basically, MA is, the equivalent of an R rating, which that's the thing that you need to be aware of here. This is a gritty 1940s style, almost, very noir-ish Batman. It kind of goes back to Batman's roots, like in the 30s and 40s, at least stylistically. Now, even as he fights familiar villains, although I will say that we have a change in that Penguin is not Oswald Cobblepot, which I didn't actually know Penguin's real name. It's Oswalda. So he is now a she. So we've got a gender swap on one of the main villains. And then we have some same-sex attraction going on as well. Probably the biggest thing parents are going to want to know about is this is a really violent show. And so I think sometimes we can get sucked in on animation and think, oh, it's something for the kids. I don't think you're going to make it very far in Batman and you're like, oh, this isn't for the kids at all. This is a gritty, grimy, violent, kind of really dark show. And
because you're so right when you say that, well, it's animation. That's the first thing we think of. We think of something as wholesome as, Bugs Bunny, and this is going to be a fun little Batman series, but you're saying it's the exact opposite.
Well, and it's really well done. And so I do think that most of what we see here is navigable, but it's navigable for older teens and adults. I think under, 13 or 14 or so, and maybe even older than that, it's, there's a relativity there about where kids are at maturity wise, but this is not a kid's show. It is grim. And we get a fair bit of what I would describe as mild profanity. They steer clear of, some of the words that would get you a lot of points, actually not a lot of points in Scrabble, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But there's still some of that there as well. So it's tricky because Batman has always been this sort of creature of the night, and they're definitely leaning in hard to that. And I would say it mirrors what we have seen from the Batman movies really for the last 15 years or so.
And that's what I was going. I'm thinking they're trying to bank on the darkness of the Batman character from those movies with animation, because you normally don't think of adults watching a lot of animation. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's already the second season, so somebody's watching it.
No, and the critics have loved it. I mean, it's got very, very high scores on Rotten Tomatoes. If that means anything, we could talk about that later too, because there's been this big Rotten Tomatoes scandal that the whole thing is cooked up anyway. So who knows? We need to have a hermeneutic of suspicion, Steve. Trust but verify. Who knows what's really real, right?
Exactly. It's the same thing with the radio ratings. I promise you.
Yeah.
But anyway, now this is where I come to a soft spot in my heart, because you and I both are big Star Wars guys.
Yeah.
We grew up with the originals, and
Yep.
now I just feel like they're jumping the shark. They're
Yeah.
trying to do so much. Once George Lucas cashed out for however many gazillions of dollars,
Yeah.
it just has gone in a completely different direction. And I think it's
Yep.
left a lot of guys like you and me kind of going, what, why?
Well, yeah. I mean, I try to imagine a world in which I never had any interest in seeing Mandalorian and Grogu, but that's the world I
Right.
live in. I'm like, I
Right.
just don't really care that much. I suppose I should see it, that sort of approach. So there's a new show, actually it is a new show, but it's a spin-off. It's called Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi. And they did 2 seasons on Disney Plus of this show called Star Wars Visions, where they basically treated Star Wars as an open source IP, intellectual property, and they invited Japanese animators to just run with it and to just imagine telling a story set in the Star Wars universe. And that was about all of the guidance they had. And so there were 2 seasons of that actually is pretty much unlike anything else in the Star Wars universe. It's definitely an anime take on Star Wars. This is a show that I think piggybacks off of 1 or 2 of those episodes, and now they've done an entire series. It's centuries after Luke and Rey and everything that we've seen. And there's a guy named Juro who is trying to basically reboot the legacy of the Jedi and everything that comes with it. So the Sith, the bad guys, are still around. It will feel like a Star Wars story, but it's pretty fresh. And it's pretty fresh because I think they're completely unburdened of any connective tissue with anything that's happened recently. So other than this is a Star Wars show. So this is the first season of this new offshoot, which in some ways it's like the 3rd season of Star Wars Visions. And it's pretty interesting. It's pretty well done. I think the thing to note here is that it's pretty violent, and maybe even surprisingly violent in spots.
Well, that's we'll have to pick that up next week because we're running out of time. In about 30 seconds, Adam, tell them about pluggedin.com.
Yep. Pluggedin.com is focused on the family's entertainment and technology review website. We review movies, music, television, video games, YouTube channels, books, technology, and more. Come check us out at pluggedin.com.
It is a fantastic website. And of course, it's focused on the family. So it's top notch, top shelf. Yep. You can trust it. And again, they do an amazing, amazing job. And Adam's always kind to join us to talk about all the different things here on the Steve Marston Show. Have a tremendous weekend, buddy. We really appreciate you.
All right. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. That's Adam Holtz, everybody, from Plugged In. More of the Steve Marston Show coming up. Okay, what a cool segment there with our buddy Adam Holtz. Such a good guy. And yeah, I'm still wondering about, the Star Wars, because if you're a guy that's my age that grew up with it, it is totally different. But like you said, it's given the new writers a chance to start fresh almost with Star Wars. So that's something, I guess, that's in their favor, to be able to tell new stories in that world. Let's see. Let's get to some dad jokes. What do you say? We've got our dad joke for the radio audience coming up here in just a second, but how about some more of them here? How about this one? What do you call a Frenchman wearing sandals? What do you call a Frenchman wearing sandals? Felipe Flop. I like that. That's the first time I've heard that one. How about this one? We just talked about Spider-Man and the whole Marvel universe. Well, why? He said, I don't get why Marvel doesn't use Hulk to advertise more. He's basically one big banner. Banner, David Banner. Oh, no, that is right. How about this one? Do you know your pupils are the last part to stop working when they die? When you die, yeah, your pupils are the last part of you that stops working when you die. They die late. What does a baby computer call his father? Data. Yeah. Let's see. There's get a couple more here. We're about a minute or so away from coming back. Let's see. What do you call a beehive without an exit? Unbelievable. Believable. And then this is one of my favorites. This one's kind of classic by now. But what's Forrest Gump's password? What is Forrest Gump's password? One Forrest one. Say it together fast. You'll get it. There you go. Those aren't bad. I love dad jokes. I do. Okay. Coming back here, and we've got the dad joke for the radio audience. So we're getting to it here right now.
Here at the Steve Marston Show, we are serious about faith, but we love a good dad joke, too.
Where do ducks go for breakfast?
It's aggressive.
Because I see the pressure is on now. You made the camera girl laugh. Like, it's on.
Where?
Quacker Barrel. Quack.
That's good.
Quack.
Well, where else would a duck go for breakfast? I mean, really, you think about it. Back here on the Steve Marston Show, we would love for you to join us as we do all of our socials, YouTube, podcast, all of that fun stuff. Like, subscribe, hit that notifications bell. It'll help us out a great deal. I know it's cliche. Everybody says to do that, but it's because it works. So we would love for you to do that. And we'll be uploading the YouTube show as well as the podcast as soon as we get done here with the live radio part of it. Let's get to some of the other headlines happening today. We've got some more information on The Shack, the book coming out. You remember, gosh, it's probably been 15 years ago, where William Paul Young wrote this book called The Shack. And it was very controversial in Christian circles because it depicted the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in unique ways. Like the Father was actually portrayed as kind of an older black lady, and Jesus was more of a hippy dippy kind of guy, and the Spirit was portrayed as an Asian lady. It was either an Asian lady or an Asian man. Anyway, a lot of people in conservative Christian circles got upset with it, saying, that's not how God is, and on and on. And he took a lot of flack for it, but it also was read by a gazillion people. And he's back with the new book in the series. It's called Return to the Shack, A Journey of Redemption. This one takes place 10 years after the original novel's events. Although it features the same characters, Young says it's also a standalone book. 10 years after his 6-year-old daughter is abducted and murdered on a camping trip, Mac Phillips visits her killer in prison. And according to the synopsis, Mac faces the brokenness of another human being, but also the raw weight of his own anger, doubt, and disappointment with God. And it's kind of an interesting premise. He said to explore the the killer's character, I should say. Young drew from friendships while he made in a prison ministry in Nashville. He said people often view death row inmates as animals, but he said the worst day for them is, but he said remembering for them the worst day of their lives. But prisoners come from very diverse backgrounds, Young says. often with trauma and abuse being a centerpiece. Anyway, like I say, I think that's an amazing premise for a book. I mean, it has a lot of meat on the bone there, you may say. So could be an interesting read. Again, it's not, it's not an appendix to the Bible. It's just a novel. And if we can keep that in the forefront of our thinking, then we'll be okay. Here's an interesting little thing. The band Petra, over 50 years old. Yeah, they are still looking ahead. Both of the musicians who are in Petra, Bob Hartman and John Schlitt, are trying to stay focused on God's calling. It said, in fact, what would they ask, or what they could tell younger versions of themselves, where Bob Hartman said, I would tell myself, stop listening to other people and what they say you're doing and what you should or shouldn't be doing. And he said, God was sending me on a straight line, but I was being influenced by what I was hearing. John Schlitt, on the other hand, said he had a few regrets. One of them was the Beyond the Belief era. He said one of the major decisions he wishes he could change was canceling the No Doubt tour. He said, it put me in debt for 10 years. He said, I think it was just my pride I was listening to rather than my head on that situation. Anyway, and I thought this was really interesting too. They said, for those who may be interested in discovering Petra's music for the first time, which would be a lot of people. Again, Petra really hit their main stride in the 80s and 90s, and that's been a long time ago. And both the guys agreed that Beyond Belief is probably where they new listeners ought to start, because it's so prominent in that movie, he said, of their 1990 album. So yeah, if you're a new listener and you want to check out what Petra is all about, again, one of the founding members of Christian rock, check it out. You can go back and find Beyond Belief from Petra. It's a good place to start there. And then this is cool. Sports Spectrum podcast had Mike McDonald, the Super Bowl winning coach of the Seattle Seahawks, on. And I found this pretty neat, that when they went to the Super Bowl, obviously there's so much pressure on the coach to get his team ready, and just such a big buildup and preparation. And he was really starting to feel the nerves and really starting to feel the heaviness of the situation. He said he was gone to a practice, and when he came back, his boss, the general manager of the team, John Schneider, had put one of those little mini Jesus figurines on his desk. And he said, I walked into the room and it was just like Jesus is there staring back at me. He said, it reminded me that it's not in my control. I've done all the things that I can do. I have to have faith in our process, win or lose. It's part of his vision for me. And he said that just really calmed his nerves, and he was able to go out and be what he needed to be for his team that day in that game. So pretty amazing stuff. I really felt that was interesting. We'll link to that podcast and let you hear it for yourself if you're so interested in our show notes when this show is uploaded as a podcast, its own self, coming up a little bit later this afternoon. Again, it's a Sports Spectrum podcast with Mike McDonald. Okay, we've got one segment coming up, and we'll be getting to the best video on the internet today. This one is a classic. It's been a viral video for years now, but I want to share it with you for the first time on this program, because it is just such, to me, life in a microcosm in like 19 seconds. We'll get to that coming up, and we'll also wrap up our Faith Between Your Ears learning of our Bible verse for this week as well. That's all coming up. The Steve Marston Show is live this afternoon, and we appreciate you being a part of it, whether you're listening, watching, or both. Don't move. We're back in a flash. Just got a text while I was on the air. I have to make a phone call when I get off the air, it seems like. So I will do that. And let's talk a little bit quickly about the PDF that we have. I've been telling you about our website is up for beta testing SteveMarstonShow.com. I would love for you to check it out and spend some time there, look around, see what you think. And again, maybe you've been there, but it has changed over the last couple of days. I mean, we changed it up a little bit today, some little tweaks, and we're going to continue to make minor tweaks, but we're also going to be adding some more sections and features to what we hope is going to be a nice repository for a discipleship, because that's what this whole program is about, is helping to be better disciples. That's why we talk to people. That's why we talk about the stories we talk about. And we're trying to, get to the point where everything in our lives shows Jesus and people see us, but they're really seeing him. That's the whole goal. And look, we fall short. There's no secret about that. We're not going to be perfect at this, but we can fall forward, fall towards perfection. So I appreciate you joining us on the ride. And I really do, whether you're watching this as a live stream or you're watching it just on your own time, tell a friend, let people know if you feel like what we're doing is good and you're kind of digging what we're doing, man, please let us be important enough to share with others. We want you to do that, because that'll help the show grow. Oh, and this too, I've had a couple of people ask about my son Tyler's 1189. He's usually on every Thursday, and it's been a little while since he's been on. We're going to have him back next week. He's still doing the videos. It's still up on YouTube, 1189, where he breaks down every chapter of the Bible. That's why the channel is called that. So I'm super proud of him, and I think he does a phenomenal job. And it's real easy to understand, and it's just another set of eyes to help you learn and grow closer to God. It really does. And so we're excited about that. We'll get him back on the show. Okay, let's get back to the radio. The Steve Marston Show continues. We're grateful that you are a part of it today with us. How about that new music, by the way? Not too shabby, huh? Okay. Every week we start the Monday off with a Bible verse where we try to learn it through the week. We call it Faith Between Your Ears, because I think it's the most needed thing to help us go from point A to point B, to go a layer or maybe even 2 layers deeper in our faith, to really draw close to Jesus, knowing his word. Until we do that, I think we're going to be kind of stagnant. I mean, that's the way I felt in my life. So I think this will really help you. So we try to do it together. And look, the first argument and first obstacle you always get is, well, Steve, I'm just too old. I can't memorize. There's just no way I can do it. I can remember lyrics from a song in 1984. I know the National League Gold Glove winner at third base from 1981, but I can't memorize Bible verses here in 2026. Okay, I get it. I understand, but you're wrong. You can. And whether it's writing it out long form 3 or 4 or 5 times, or however many times it takes for you to get in between your ears, or if it's just taking a piece of paper, writing it out one time, and just closing your eyes and saying it over and over, you can memorize. And I've even made it easy this week. This week, the verse is literally 3 words. Hopefully, by the time we finish this segment, you'll have it memorized. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 says, always be joyful. I don't know how much easier we can make that for you. Always be joyful. Even though those are just 3 words, they're powerful and they mean a lot when you think about how life can treat us and how things can absolutely go from being right up here to all the way at the bottom and just completely turned over and shaken. You've been there, but we're still to be joyful. Well, how do we do that? Well, one of the ways is knowing God's word so that when those situations happen, we can realize, hey, whatever the situation says, I can be joyful. And it's not just a suggestion. I'm commanded to be joyful. So there you go. 1 Thessalonians 5:16. Always be joyful, our faith between your ears verse. Okay, this is the best video on the internet today. It's a classic from several years ago, but I've never shared it on the show, and I wanted to share it here because this is typical of what life can do to us. So we're going to roll the footage. If you're listening on the radio, it's a lady in a pool of water. She's playing golf. She's up to her knees in water. She's ready to hit her shot out of the water. It goes in the air, catches in the wind, and then makes a direct left turn back into the water. So she basically hits it about 4 feet back to where she didn't want to be, directly into the water. Crazy, man. All right, that does it for the Steve Marston Show today. Have a great week. We'll talk to you on Monday at 3 o'clock, okay? Adios.